Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Communicating the Networked Lighting Control Value Proposition webinar. We're going to give it just a couple more seconds as people trickle in and get started. Probably 30 more seconds or so. All right, here come a few more people, so let's get going. Like I said, you are at the Communicating the Network Lighting Control Value Proposition webinar this morning. Armando is going to be your guide on this important topic if you're trying to get new stuff in your client's building. And just some housekeeping. You're all muted right now, but we've got the chat feature open. So if you have a question at any point, go ahead and type in there and we will get that answered. And there are going to be a few polls, I think just 3 or 4 this morning. They're kind of fun, but they also help Armando gauge where to take the conversation after the poll. So be sure to participate in those, please. And at the end, a short survey will pop up on your screen. It's just a few questions, 7 or 8 questions that will help us know what to do differently next time or to continue doing the amazing job that Armando does. And this will be recorded. It is being recorded right now. And we'll post this and the slide deck that you're looking at on our website within a week or so. If you have any questions afterwards, there's our email address, lightingdesignlab@seattle.gov. Go ahead and reach out to us at any time. And just a reminder, we are Seattle City Light employees. Lighting Design Lab exists within Seattle City Light. And so here's our first poll. Let's get to know you a little bit. Here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different categories. Select what you consider yourself to be the best descriptor, and let's see who we are talking with today. We got about almost 100% voted. So Armando, if you want to close that up and see who we're talking to, and then you can go ahead and set this ship a-sailing. I don't know where that came from.
Very nice. I like that, Katie. Very nice. Solid amount of people from industry and very little, no people from government utility, which is interesting because it's usually the other way around. So I like the spread. Thank you for joining us today. And the poll is closed, correct? Yep. Let me hide that. There we go. And I think we're back. All right, well, hello, everybody. Thank you again for joining us today. Very excited to continue talking about lighting with you guys. Very, very excited. My name is Armando Berdiel Chavez. I have a background in business, software, and engineering management for schooling. I took a nice little deep dive on lighting and controls with an NLC manufacturer in the East Coast, Lutron. Later, I worked with one of their market partners as well. They were also market partners for Signify, Greenlight, and a couple other lighting controls companies. A very small company where I wore many, many hats, doing lighting audits, going out on sales, doing the development of the projects, doing the programming, the training of the facility managers. So it was a great experience, small company market partner to get a nice little breadth of experience throughout the industry. And for the last, I want to say 3.5 years, I've been working in Lighting Design Lab at Seattle City Light, and it's been a great experience promoting the good word of LED lighting and network lighting controls, luminaire level lighting controls by doing education, programming, and awareness, good amount of demonstrations, evaluations, outreach, developing tools, resources to very exciting journey, and all in the good faith of eliminating the toggle switch on our walls. So setting a little bit of the stage here for our presentation, I'll repeat it again. Hey, we want to communicate the value proposition for network lighting controls. Again, we want to ensure that our buildings are smarter, they're more efficient, they're better for the tenants or the people that occupy this space. And we, again, want to eliminate those wall switches. Throughout the presentation, and we'll have the handout available online, we're going to have a good amount of links and resources in this handout, so it's great to have it as a PDF to click around. This presentation is based out of one of our network lighting control series handouts. We developed a series of 5 of these handouts, I believe in 2020, alongside Better Bricks, and very solid resources for education and awareness around network lighting controls. I also tell terrible jokes, so bear with me. Feel free to tell me to stop on the chat. And lastly, any examples that we use for manufacturers and their products, whether it be in the great light or not in the best light, it's not meant to be an endorsement on a shot. It's simply an example of the technology. All right, so just so we're talking about the same things here and that we're on the same page. When we're talking about generally, and in this presentation, when we're talking about lighting controls, advanced lighting controls, network lighting controls, you'll see, LC, ALC, NLC. Well, we're mainly talking about network lighting controls, and I'll talk further about what that means in the next slide. When we throw out the term LLLC, we'll talk about luminaire level lighting controls. Also going to be described slightly later in the presentation. When I refer to connected lighting, usually talking about the intersection between LEDs and network lighting controls, making a smarter system that can talk to within itself and other systems across the building. When we say the term NEB, we talk about non-energy benefits. And these are mainly benefits that network lighting control systems can provide beyond savings. Sure, there's going to be efficiency, reducing wattage, reducing hours, but now our lighting systems are so smart that they can do a whole slew of things, and we'll discuss a good amount of them throughout the presentation as well. Another term that's not as common, but I like it, is the idea of the SBE, or the Smart Building Ecosystem. The idea that we have, smart fire alarm, security system, lighting controls, HVAC systems, all to an extent working in symphony would be the ideal for the building operator or facility manager to pretty much control over with one dashboard. So the idea is, hey, let's get there. All right, so wanted to just present this comparison as to what we're going to be talking about and not talking about. And that's the difference between distributed systems and network lighting controls. When I more so talk about distributed lighting control systems, sure, there is a good amount of one-way or two-way communication between the components as they talk to each other, sensors, the fixtures, the wall stations. But there's not that much quote-unquote smarts when it comes to communicating the system to others. Sure, and some of these distributed systems can activate other building systems to do contact closures, or analog wire signaling other systems. But the majority, if not most or all of the distributed systems, won't have these abilities to dashboard or have mobile devices monitor and control them. So a lot more limited than what we call network lighting controls. And I'll repeat this a few times during the presentation. When we talk about networked, we're not talking about everything here has an IP address. We are more so saying it's just communicating. It is a fancy and slightly IT word for saying, hey, this is communicating. Network lighting controls will typically, and for the ones that we're going to refer to here, are going to be what we call mid-scale lighting controls, scalable. The majority we discuss will be wireless, and the great majority will have some kind of processor or gateway or hub, or it's another way of saying the brains of the system that can ensure that all the components within that system talk to each other through that brain or processor, and also has a great capability of talking to other building systems or lighting control systems, again, through that same brain, be it via APIs, simple like TCP/IP protocols. But yes, today we'll be focusing on these network lighting controls. Continuing to set the stage a little bit, in 2020, the IES, the magazine, the Lighting Design and Applications magazine, came out with what they call the Emerging Markets Report, discussing how much they saw the industry growing, from less than $1 billion to $4.5 billion by 2026 as an intensely expanding market. And what they really called out is that lighting and lighting controls, or just lighting systems in general, are solving issues beyond what lighting decision makers can pretty much oversee. Lighting offers a lot more than just controlling illumination at this point. And it begs the question, who then are going to be the stakeholders, or new stakeholders, for lighting solutions these days? It is not necessarily a new discussion, but we're far from a silver bullet in ensuring, hey, how lighting manufacturers or reps or salespeople can reach that target audience and communicate that message effectively as to, hey, we are here to solve your problem. So as we are still looking at this great question, hey, we're gonna have the great journey, and we're gonna again speak to the presentation and some tips and tricks as to how to get that message to the right people. But first, and slightly less and less in 2021, 2022, but still very much part of the conversation is a disconnect, where you hear sometimes trade allies, be it contractors, ESCOs, LED companies that are all they're doing is TLEDs, ballasts, whatever the case may be, is still the case where a lot of these projects have various organizations or businesses competing solely on the lowest cost, and that can lead to a project development tunnel vision, where the result is almost always the same. Value engineering a project with diminishing margins for the sales companies, and there's pressures to install a product faster just to cover the cost. And traditionally, and what we want to think about is, hey, what else may get lost in that race to the lowest cost and the fastest implementation? But one of the things that definitely gets lost is the delivered value to the customer and the tenants, and sometimes the opportunity for repeat business. But then on the other end of that conversation, there's a good amount of design allies, and by that I mean lighting designers, building engineers, architects, where in the conversations, hey, I could not remember the last time I didn't specify an NLC product or a smart lighting system. And also, I don't really go through utility programs because it doesn't make sense for my retrofit or new construction space, because we're working too fast, working with utilities is too slow. So there's a lot of conversations that we're going to try to dissuade here and demystify. And lastly, we'll have end customers that may not 100% understand what lighting systems can do for them, but they are hip to the conversation of, we need integrated solutions, we need dashboarding, we need to touch buttons and multiple systems react. So we want to understand, hey, how do we bridge that disconnect between competing on lowest cost and not delivering all the good features that lighting systems can provide, and what the end users are expecting? So maybe one of the reasons that we do have that disconnect is past experience. And past experience, like network lighting controls have come a long way. Let's start there and state at some of their infancy, we'll all remember pretty much having to speak in Morse code in order to program some of these quote unquote smarter wall stations. It's also been a terrible experience and a very costly labor piece, having to adjust dip switches across sensors and ceilings throughout an entire building whenever, oh, we have to switch our timeout period from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. All right, we're gonna have a couple of technicians do this for an entire couple of weeks across the entire building. Even when wireless systems came abound, some of the first kings did not really allow them to communicate as well. There was a good amount of troubleshooting that had to be done in order to make them run smoothly. And again, that left a bad taste in its mouth. And sometimes when your daylight sensors or whatever the case may be were not working as the tenants expected, they were defeated by the oh so powerful Dixie Cup. Have a couple of projects where that happened in a couple of the spaces. And we saw like, hey, the daylight sensors in these spaces are always dimming, raising the lights to almost 100%. Is there no daylight in that room? No, lo and behold, we saw powerful Dixie Cups because the people did not want the lights to dim when they didn't expect it. So yeah, again, the odds have been stacked against network lighting controls, and it's been a solid journey. Sure, there's still a long way to go, but systems today have come again a very long way. Manufacturers have listened to the market, they've plugged their ears, listened to their customers, and all of those complaints, the stories, the value added that people have been asking for, they're making their way to their systems. And not only are our lighting control systems being more flexible, more capable, less complicated, definitely less costly, easier to install and commission, compatible with other systems, integrated. Um, all these good things, they're happening to network lighting control systems. So they're getting more resilient and durable and a lot better to implement. So it is prime time. And not only that, there are a lot of great value added features, what we call non-energy benefits, uh, being added to these systems that are just, again, creating these great features that not only solve how do we properly light a space, how do we reduce glare, but a ton of other success metrics. Like, hey, how do we increase foot traffic? How do we ensure that we find our assets? How do we ensure that the utility has enough power to go throughout their service territory in the peak of summer? So all of these new emerging solutions are seeing their problems being solved by some network lighting control systems. All right, and again, in 2020, the LEDs magazine released a state of the industry survey where a great majority of people, let's say 70 some percent, said that they would somewhat likely or very likely want to work network lighting controls, non-energy benefits as secondary business opportunities whenever they were working at a building to implement just LED lighting. They saw the idea that, hey, like, sure, LED replacing legacy sources with LEDs is going to be a great way to get in the door to a building, but what we want to ensure that we keep repeat business going is with network lighting controls. And there's also a great opportunity when it comes to implementing smart lighting in spaces. And I'll talk a little bit about that 1-9-90 rule. You may know it as a 3-30-300 rule, but it's not. This percentage-wise rule is not trademarked by JLL. So we'll go about it this way, where, hey, in a given building, we say that 1% of a square foot of a space, the cost of 1% of the square foot in a space is spent on energy and resources. That that just means your electricity, heating bills, water, waste, use of resources, sure, including lighting, heating, cooling, plug loads, server rooms. So 1% of the cost of square foot of your building is spent on these energies and resources. We move on to then say 9% of the cost the square foot of your cost for your building space is spent on the actual space use efficiency and layout that reflects the workflow. You're spending that on what offers an optimum environment for individual task, employee interaction, team building, operations, customer service, all that good stuff. So how your space is set out. Then 90% of the cost of your building per square foot is spent then on your people, your employee wellness, productivity, even including, sure, the visual comfort, acoustic, thermal experience, indoor air quality, amenities. everything that can improve the employee's health, comfort, and work-life balance. Then challenge us to think about, hey, we can even, the cost per square footage, we can even get an opportunity and revenue and opportunity where we have unexpected benefits of highly interconnected building systems, their devices and sensors, and delivering device level data that can be aggregated into incredibly value and real-time business operations data. All of your systems are collecting information about be it space use, be it preferences, and if you know how to chart this and you have data scientists working well with you, they'll tell you how to turn that information into opportunities. And that is what we want to promote with network lighting control systems. However, with all that network lighting control systems can do today, huge caution and warning. Whenever speaking to a potential customer, someone that may want to have NLC systems in their space, don't just blurt out a list of features. You're going to confuse people. You're going to be dragging the horse to water. Don't force the horse. In retrospect, be a listener. The idea is to elicit opportunities because stakeholders will lead you to what they need. The idea will always be to tie in customer values to the space and then understand how your lighting system can provide a solution. So when I talk about stakeholders, I'm mainly talking, and for the purposes of this course, we're going to be talking about these four main archetypes of stakeholders. The tenants that live in a space and occupy the space and interact with that, with a lighting system. Facility professionals who take care of building facilities and leverage systems in order to do so and extend the life and all that great stuff. We'll talk about implementers that are almost pretty much on the other end of that coin, where they implement the system. And sure, owners or owners representatives that invest in these systems to be it increase productivity or get some other type of benefit from these solutions in their space. Ending this section with learning objectives. The idea is to, hey, today we're going to move the conversation beyond just decision makers and talk about broader stakeholders. We're looking to understand what the stakeholders types are, the four main ones that I just talked about, and their needs. We're looking to articulate how network lighting control technology impacts these stakeholders, and leverage existing resources to further simplify the message of, hey, network lighting control systems are good for your space. Blurred out a ton of information just to set the stage well enough. Any questions so far? Take a quick peek. All right, I don't see any, so I will be moving us along. All right, so let's talk about our stakeholders and their interests. Again, going back to Lighting Design and Applications magazine, they had a great article called out, Are You My Customer? Where they had a solid healthcare environment considering non-energy benefits, and different stakeholders were talking about, hey, how do we keep track of wheelchairs? How do we ensure temperature is logged 3 or 4 times a day? Our customers are getting lost all over the hospital. How can we have wayfinding applications to help people get to what they're looking for? And the stakeholders looking for solutions to these problems were, director of compliance, the vice president of patient care, customer satisfaction, the inventory manager, not typically people that your lighting system salesperson, rep, whoever may engage in a conversation. And hey, maybe we are at this point, and I would super encourage it, but that is that disconnect of who is the right stakeholder to reach. And when it comes to stakeholders, decision makers, there's going to be a difference, and within the categories, a different way that these stakeholders are going to react to you, depending on who you're talking to in an organization that is considering implementing NLC systems. They're going to be, let's say, people are going to recommend your systems to other people that may influence your solutions to other decision makers or stakeholders. There's certainly going to be gatekeepers, people that say, hey, we're not looking to have this complex, costly, bulky, and inflexible thing in our space. And that may be from those past experiences, from whatever other bias they may have. And the idea is to rely on relationships, discuss past successes, and obviously, like, as much as possible, demonstrate, mock up, and show and tell is the best way to go forward, and saying, hey, this will really work for you. But a lot of these stakeholders, they send their information upstream to people that hold the purses and make those financial decisions. So involving relevant stakeholders early is very key to most of these projects. Quick story on a pilot project that I was working at New York University in 2017. We were looking to outfit a building with smart LED lamps, and we had two manufacturers looking to provide a floor's worth of lamps for a specific building. One was Lunera, as we have here. The other was Philips, or well, Signify now, but Philips at the time. And we were about to do the pilot project with the Lunera smart lamps, because Lunera wanted to provide the lamps to us for free. That was going to be a great option. Hey, we don't have to pay for these. The customer's not going to have to pay for these. So let's go ahead and implement these lamps. So the people, again, holding the purses, were very happy. Then we learned that each T8 lamp, 4-foot T8 lamp, was going to require an IP address on the client's network in order to properly communicate and service the system. We had not communicated that to the IT department at NYU for a lot of the time we were working on the pilot. But as soon as they heard, oh, each T8 is going to need their own IP address, that's not going to work for our security, cybersecurity, or infrastructure. We had to then go with the Philips smart lamps. I think it was a Spacewise system, and had to pay for the lamps. But the customer and their stakeholders, the IT department, was very happy that it only required very, very minimal IT connections. So moving along to describing these stakeholders a little bit more in depth, starting with the tenants. These are the people that interface with the system, be it, hey, the wall stations, the sensors in the walls, the ceilings, and what they're really looking for, even if subconsciously. How can this network lighting control system help their productivity, their comfort, their quality of life? Would it be, by less glare, better task lighting? Some, your typical tenants, be it office workers, teachers, nurses, depending on who's on every other vertical. And ultimately, buildings want to serve the stakeholder. So when we move on to, be it building operators, facility managers, technicians, facility professionals overall, these stakeholders, they do want to make their own lives easier. They're looking to encourage reducing the number of smart building systems. So, hey, why don't we need a separate system for lighting control, a separate system for the HVAC? The more they can aggregate what they're doing, so they have to work with less amount of factories and systems, the better. Not looking to call 10 different factory technicians to solve 2 problems. Also looking to dashboard, receive diagnostics, alerts, and emails on their phone. They'd like to monitor and control their different building systems, and ultimately extend the life of the systems that they're working with. Obviously, hey, if we're talking lighting systems, extending the life of luminaires, lamps, and all this good stuff, and network lighting control systems can certainly help do that. So implementers, when we talk about design allies or trade allies, design allies, briefly touched on this before. Hey, lighting designers, architects, building engineers, specifiers, that design community. Trade allies, much more colloquial term, your contractors, ESCOs, people that traditionally work with utilities. But what they want to really do is, hey, simplify the way that these systems are developed, spec'd, designed, laid out, simplify their installation, simplify the maintenance, ensuring that there's a good amount of new, or not new, but features that can create that relationship, that subject matter expertise relationship for repeat business as these network lighting control systems gets better. Great service that implementers provide is just alerting building owners, hey, this is another great way that the NLC system can help you and your values. Lastly, we'll have the building owners rep types that invest in the system. They again, sure, they want to be compliant. They want to meet code. They want to have your LEED or your well building certification. They want to ensure that energy codes met as well. Ultimately looking to create profits or reducing any type of operating costs, great increasing revenue opportunities, and we'll talk a little bit more about that even better. And ultimately, they want to future-proof their building. Building owners and reps, they understand that the buildings are it's very unlikely that they're going anywhere. So the better infrastructure they can set up today for the technologies of tomorrow, the better. Great way to what we call mapping out how decision makers can think and help on your projects, whichever side of the spectrum you lay on, be it on the implementer side or the facility management side. Communicating the value of NLC systems, start with knowing your audience. As I said before, being a listener. How do you plan that approach? Is that you start asking questions like, hey, how can this solution affect your metrics, your processes? Ask about how different stakeholders measure success, and have that knowing, and then what? And then what? And then what? When you have people talking about how their lives could be better, you can not only create a map of different influencers, recommenders, even gatekeepers, and you'll get to see how each of these parties responds to the different features, non-energy benefits, and even the savings of your network lighting control systems, and you'll have a great image for how a solution can impact the building. Slightly just repeating the point here, but big key for lighting control systems these days are to tie in stakeholders' purposes and goals. The idea is to be, promote that building's purpose. Understand how a building operates, how they do business, what are the operational benefits and transformational value? How do we future-proof a space? Some buildings these days, or some types of facilities, want to improve customer satisfaction. Some want to be known for reducing their carbon footprints or greenhouse gases. Others just very happy being compliant, being LEED. Others want to know how to increase foot traffic. So again, understanding facilities' purpose will be great to seeing how your network lighting control system can meet those needs. Taking a quick pause over here, seeing if there's any questions. All right, and beyond that, we're going to launch another small poll. A little bit about stakeholders and how we approach them. So, hey, select the statements you agree with. When it comes to stakeholders, is it too high to engage with them? Like, hey, we want to talk with tenants, even though they're not the ones that are holding the budgets. Is it tough to get the buy-in from owners or their owners' representatives? Is it the facility professionals or building operators that drive the control implementation of the system? Is it true or false that implementers only care about profit? So if you're looking at the poll, get a chance to participate, hey, it gives us a great idea of where your head's at. So I'm gonna keep it up for another, thank you for responding. I'm gonna keep it up for like 5 more seconds. All right, I see a good spread here. Let me share that. See, Good stuff. I appreciate their not selecting, hey, implement types only care about making this stale. That brings back my faith on humanity. Very, very, very nice. But I like that we're very in consensus of it is tough to get in buying from the owner's types. So great. The rest of the conversation, we're looking to see how we can simplify that message and better send it to this type of audience. So right now, not necessarily a class on how NLC systems work, but it's always good to review a little bit of the savings and strategies. So we'll try to do that very swiftly here. I will apologize for some background noise. Of course, my space is taking care of these. It should be gone in about 20 seconds. So I'll try to be a little louder for now, and again, in a few moments, it'll be gone. Yeah, hey, where do savings come from? Yeah, it's the idea of power and time. That's what really drives our energy forward. And we measure power in watts, or in the energy in the lighting industry more with kilowatts, and their time we'll measure it with hours. So that unit of measurement for our energy and energy cost is kilowatt hours. Utilities will tell you in terms of electricity how much money per kilowatt hours your systems your electricity bill will be. So the more you can reduce that time that you're using energy, or the power, the wattage that you're using energy, the better it will be for your bottom line, or reduce your electricity bill. So systems, these network lighting control systems and lighting, connected lighting overall, will have a couple of solid benefits. If you have a legacy light source, be it fluorescent, metal halide, incandescent, and you convert to LED, you are straight reducing the wattage there. Great for savings. Adding your network lighting control systems, luminaire level lighting control systems will do both. Will reduce power, be it by implementing strategies, and we'll discuss them later, like high-end trim, or they'll reduce, or daylight harvesting, or they're going to reduce the time that the energy is on, or that the lights are on, be it by scheduling your occupancy vacancy, among other strategies. And when you think about, hey, building management systems that communicate with a network lighting control system for further efficiencies, or hey, if a system is leveraging the lighting sensors to tell an HVAC to lay off of their temperature settings, the better and the more energy that can be saved. So very brief review of 4 key control strategies for network lighting control systems. Let's start with high-end trim, also known as task tuning. And that is the ability to put a ceiling cap on the output of luminaires. More often than not, and it's a good way too, designers, specifiers will be conservative and over-specify the lumen package of fixtures. This is done because they don't know if a space will value engineer the space layout overall, if there's going to be darker colors on the walls and floors or ceilings. May not know if there's going to the room's going to get very dirty very quickly, and for other factors they may just over specify the lumen package. And high-end trim strategy is a great way to put a ceiling on the maximum amount of light a luminaire can produce, and that does a great couple of things. Number one, because the fixture is not running at 100% capacity. There's a ceiling before the 100%, and that is being set depending on what's best for the space, depending on the required foot candles, the tenant comfort, reducing glare. So because the light fixture will not be running at 100%, that extends the life of that fixture. There's going to be less heat that is going to be running, and as lumen depreciation starts hitting and the lights get slightly dimmer and dimmer, sure, you can adjust the high-end trim to allow more light and continue providing the correct amount of foot candles for your task. Occupancy vacancy, sure, the ability of having light when someone's in the space, or not having light when the space is not occupied. More and more, both codes and designs are leaning towards leveraging vacancy sensors, and that's going to be the the main difference is, hey, we won't turn the lights automatically on in a space. A tenant or a user would have to use another type of wall station or trigger to turn lights on, but whenever they're not in a space, then the lights will go off. When we talk about daylight harvesting, so for a specific task plane, be it a desk, be it a whiteboard in an office, whatever, or a classroom, whatever the case may be, the IES recommends a specific amount of foot candles for these tasks. And let's say if there are, be it windows, skylights, or some kind of fenestration in your space, if your natural daylight gets you 80% of the way to your recommended or required foot candles, and you only need 20% of electric light to take you all the way there are savings to be made and a lot more comfort and productivity for your tenants in that way. Then sure, we'll have scheduling is another great key control strategy where you can program, be it by time of day or following the sunrise or sunset. That's called the astronomic time clock. When you may want different zones of lighting to go on or off or dim or do something different. Scheduling also gets a little fancier when you can control sensors as well. So, hey, during school hours, I want my sensors to turn lights onto a bright level, but not off. I want them to go to like a 20-25% background level for safety. But outside of school hours, sure, I want those sensors whenever they don't detect anyone to have the lights go off. When you combine these control strategies, a lot efficiencies can be made in terms of the time and energy that systems use, greatly reducing your electricity bills. So yeah, a little recap on savings. Obviously, there's many other control strategies, including personal control. I remember sometimes even people prefer dimmer spaces. I was very surprised last year doing a lighting audit on the Westbridge office for the Seattle Parks Department, where there was a room where 4 employees work in complete darkness. The only illumination in the space were their computer monitors. And hey, no, we prefer to work in complete pitch darkness. So very interesting. People will have their own personal preferences when it comes to illumination. Obviously, demand response, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, the ability for utilities to communicate, hey, we need your building to reduce your entire load. But again, typical traditional control strategies for control systems, they're great for savings, they're great for flexibility and managing your space. So mentioned them a good amount already. Take a slightly deeper dive on luminaire level lighting controls. They're a subset of network lighting controls, and they've been more so an emerging technology 2016, 2017, 18, and they've been around, but they haven't necessarily been adopted on a mainstream scale in the market. And to an extent, they're still being worked on, research, but it's a great piece of technology. And they are described by being fixtures, like you'll have your fixtures with integrated sensors. That's the most mainstream way to think about them. And they have these characteristics. They are individually addressable. Each fixture can be a zone and grouped with others as need be. Sure, they'll have their integrated both daylight and occupancy sensors. They'll allow continuous dimming from 0 to 100%. And they are networkable. Again, does not necessarily mean that every single fixture will require an IP address. It just means that it can communicate and can be easily reconfigured, traditionally these days by a mobile device or computer program. So because you don't have your separate daylight sensor in the space or occupancy sensor, fixture, load controller, there's a lot less components that you have to install in your space. So that means you're gonna realize a lot of labor savings for that, because even the more savvy electrical contractors, they'll still charge you 30 minutes for a lick it and stick it sensor or wall station. Because these can be easily configured and reconfigured through a mobile device and regrouped, It helps future-proof your space because, hey, let's say a building has to renovate a floor and change the layout. Well, with luminaire level lighting controls, no one has to go up on the ceiling and rewire anything. Just with a mobile device or computer, they can regroup the different lighting zones, and they are set for any type of space renovation in very short order. And again, the settings, be it daylight, occupancy, thresholds, they can be very easily reconfigurable. A good way to think about NLC and LLC is the one-to-one and one-to-many approach. When you have a network lighting control layout, you're going to have a separate load controller that affects the light level of the fixtures. You're going to have a separate occupancy sensor and a separate daylight sensor to control a zone or many fixtures. So when I say NLC, I think of one-to-many. One load controller, one occupancy sensor, one daylight sensor for many fixtures. When I think about the LLC configuration, I think more one-to-one. One load controller, one sensor, one occupancy sensor, one daylight sensor for one fixture. And as an added bonus, depending on when you're at, because we're here in Seattle, Washington, these automatically meet code. So what do I mean by that? It's actually written starting in the 2018 Seattle, Washington energy codes that, hey, if you have an open office that's greater, that's 5,000 square feet or greater, you're gonna require luminaire level lighting controls or an NLC system with individual addressability, which at that point, hey, might as well go for the LLC system. Also, when it comes to the section C405 for lighting controls, if you have luminaire level lighting controls in all areas in terms of meeting code, all you have to do is a quick check mark on your commissioning or your code packet and keep it going. Otherwise, if you have network lighting control implemented in the space or some other type of lighting control applications, you would have to follow all of the different categories of, hey, like occupancy settings, light reduction, time scheduling, and you have to fill out a really intense code booklet saying how you filled out the space. And daylight system commissioning for code is a little difficult. If you've seen those code books, hey, there's a lot of regulations about what your primary daylight zone is, what your secondary daylight zone has to be, what you have to consider when different obstructions are by your vertical or horizontal fenestrations. It can get finicky, and it's a lot simpler and smoother by just having luminaire level lighting controls, because each fixture will have its own daylight sensor and respond accordingly. Quick recap as to how these LLC applications can work together. Hey, let's talk about an open office and how a luminaire level lighting control system can work it. Let's say, hey, we're 7 a.m. and then people are starting to walk in the office. They'll see that the lights are all in a background level. Let's say, 20% to ensure that, people don't stumble when they walk into space, but it's not spending a ton of energy. When a lot more people are walking in the space that has an employee underneath the fixture, sure, the fixtures will be at a higher level. I don't want to say 100%, but they'll be at a brighter level to ensure that they can see their desk, do their task correctly. But in spaces that don't have employees yet, they haven't made it to the office or areas that are not occupied, they'll still be at that background level to promote comfort for those that are sitting down and working, and again, saving a good amount of energy. As people leave, the lights will be turning off after some time when they're not in their desk, ensuring that there is that background level, keeping that comfort, and that the people that are still working will still have the brighter illumination for their tasks. And only after everyone has left will the lights then go out. Further discussion on luminaire level lighting controls, the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance did a study at a university at the third quarter of 2020, where they had in a room that was 900 square foot, they had 2 lamp 32 watt fluorescent 1x4 fixtures that obviously they were retrofitted by different LLC and one NLC system. So the way they went about in this 900 square foot space, they had 5 different systems that they tried there, and they did different types of measurements. Some with obviously how much the systems cost, how much time it took to implement them, and obviously they surveyed occupants for the comfort or how subjectively they felt with each of the systems. So in this study, they had about 4 different luminaire level lighting control systems and 1 network lighting control system that they worked with a rep to redesign and specify and to implement in that space. So before LLLC systems, they could just order these directly from distribution and have an EC install them, and that's all they had to do. For that NLC system, there was a little bit of design working with a rep agency, so there's a little bit more overhead, not just as you see it in the labor, but in the design and specifications, it's almost 5 times or more than the other systems. Let's see if I get my spotlight here. Yeah, like even 5 times or more in terms of designing it. Even the hardware, just because it's a bit more in the NLC system, I'm sure they had to be a bit more, hey, processor here, separate components. So the hardware cost was a little bit more substantial as well. And even, yeah, the labor costs and such separate components had to be a little bit more expensive. For this study, in terms of implementation time, luminaire level lighting control systems, all you do is, hey, install them, use your phone to program them. And sure, the programming of luminaire level lighting control systems takes a little longer because each fixture may need to be looked at. But even so, installing and programming the NLC redesigned system in this study did take a lot more time than the others. Not as much as the one that took 13 minutes, but it did take a total more time than the rest. Then what's very interesting is that in terms of the savings, all these systems were very comparable. The right-hand side is, hey, how much savings were due to high-end trim, how many savings do they see between daylight and occupancy, and again, very comparable numbers, and savings from all control strategies are set. So again, for a lot less of the cost and implementation times, the luminaire lighting control system savings were very comparable, if not better, than the NLC spec and design system. Obviously, the study also had a ton of information when it came to the human factors and comfort and how people viewed the space. Good amount of statistics that I may not even be the best at talking about, but hey, here are some of the conclusions. In terms of the systems, the highest satisfaction occurred when they had luminaire level lighting control systems tuned to the IES foot candle lighting standards. Even the overall brightness was found to be lower than expected due to trim, and the comfort was still realized, but people can still use the space as it was intended. Just switching over to LED was a lot better than the fluorescent baseline because occupants had sat in both fluorescent and LED spaces. The task illuminance was seen as brighter, and that was better for the occupants. However, there was no major difference in satisfaction between the LLLC and the NLC system. Again, interesting note and interesting take. And as of this study, there was less effort implementing LLLC than NLC. And there was not that much difference in, again, overall satisfaction. No, I did go in a little bit on luminaire level lighting control systems, looking to see if there's any questions around that. Seeing that there is not, I'll have, and I think this is going to be the last poll that I'm going to have for you guys today. Just looking to gauge, where do you stand when it comes to luminaire level lighting control systems? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll here. When you work with them, be it whatever side of the coin you work with, hey, is it your preferred solution? Do you like them a little bit only if the customer asks for it? Or hey, I'm going to avoid them until a certain point in time in the future. So again, if you have that moment to engage with our poll here, we greatly appreciate it. Just to see, hey, even in the group that we have here, how do we treat luminaire level lighting control systems? And seeing that, oh wow, I haven't really seen this. Most people here are already evangelists of this. All right. Well, I'm going to be closing it in 3, 2, 1. Let me share it here. I appreciate the fact that, hey, most people here, hey, looking at preferred solution LLC, or hey, it's a great one to throw in the mix with a couple other NLC spaces. So really appreciate the group that we have here on that. At this time, since it's what time is it now? It is 10:55. So I don't badger you with too much and no breaks. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and I'm going to restart this at 11. So again, all we're doing is just going on mute here, taking a quick 5-minute break. At 11 a.m., we're gonna keep it going. All right, we are back, everybody. Hoping that was a nice little bio break, stretch, water, coffee, refresh, and we are ready to keep it going. I know we've spoken a little bit about stakeholders beyond decision makers, their needs and wants. We've done some review on network lighting control, saving strategies, the difference between NLC and luminaire level lighting controls, a little bit of that operation. So with that in tow, let's talk a little bit about the value proposition of non-energy benefits. Now that lighting is smarter, let's discuss a little bit what can it all do and how we can frame that message to the different stakeholders. All right, so good amount of, and again, shouting out the Trade Ally Network Northwest, solid organization here in the Puget Sound, very solid with education programming as well. They even have boots on the ground that can help on projects, be it with audit, technical support, and resources. So, great organization to plug into. But again, when we're talking about non-energy benefits, it can be, anything from, hey, like building owners and facility managers, how do we look at reduced maintenance? How can tenants and owners increase their productivity and get those benefits? Safety and security, facility managers, owners, tenants, very important factor for them to feel safe when in their space that they are. Hey, how can lighting systems help stakeholders meet their corporate sustainability goals? And hey, implementers will always enjoy ease of implementation when it comes to wireless or hybrid systems that they don't necessarily need to rewire an entire building's guts to implement. And also, main benefit in my mind when it comes to network lighting control systems, sure, the system can talk to itself and all the components will be able to listen to each other, but even better when these systems can talk to other building systems. So, hey, what is interoperability? Interoperability, looking at the definition from the American National Standards Institute, the C137 Lighting Systems Group, they name interoperability as the ability of systems or system components to transmit, receive, interpret, and/or react to data and/or power and function in a defined manner. That means, hey, two-way communications among components or among system-to-system communication. Various types of interoperability, starting with device to device. Hey, like even as simple as a lighting control sensor, having a contact closure to an HVAC relay to say, hey, switch the temperature settings if there's someone in the space and make them a little, 60 and 60, heating at 60, cooling at 80 if there's no one there. A device can talk to an entire other system, or an entire system can talk to another system, like a lighting system telling the fire, communicating with the fire alarms, whatever case may have you. So very solid. Just the ability to communicate outside of itself is a great feature of most network lighting controls. Why the ability, or what is a great way for network lighting controls to really shine today? Today, smart building platforms are increasing and evolving. There are very many technologies that buildings are leveraging to improve their operations or get more efficient, provide that comfort. Here in the image, we have various, hey, space utilization. There's companies that just do that. Asset tracking, there's companies that just do that. Energy metering, Wayfinding out, there's companies that just do that. But having a facility professional have to deal with like very many different factory technicians, manufacturers, that's a lot of overhead, time, and systems to learn. When it comes to lighting, hey, there's power in the ceiling. There are smart devices in the ceiling. Let's leverage this one system, lighting that is spread out throughout the building, has power, smart devices to do multiple functions, and to have to only work with one factory for as many functions as you can. The facility professionals will enjoy that there's going to be less of a learning curve and a more streamlined relationship with the manufacturer. Owners will be happy that they don't have to over-invest in infrastructure. Excuse me. Implementers for NLCs will enjoy the fact that they'll have that subject matter expertise relationship to offer a repeat business, to quote unquote flip on the switch of another feature if a building would so need it, and train and have that relationship. And tenants will definitely just enjoy the fact that, hey, the built environment is improving their quality of life and streamlining their operations. That's always great. Swift example, and it's one of the main use cases that we're seeing today as how these two systems can seamlessly operate. And that's your space heating and cooling, HVAC, and your network lighting control system. Very many ways to have them work together. Again, it could be analog via contact closure or a relay, or digital, be it the system gateway from lighting will talk to an HVAC gateway through an API or through the building management system protocol or some other Ethernet connected way. And the idea is, sure, let's say HVAC uses more energy than lighting in the majority of applications in a facility. Great many use cases are HVAC system will leverage lighting systems, occupancy sensors to affect the temperature set points correctly in their space. A good amount of times, and a lot of lighting systems, or if not, a lot of lighting systems also may work with shading systems as well. Or smart shading systems can also be part of the mix by like, hey, let's open and close the blinds and shears to allow it to be the space also a little warmer or cooler. And that also going into the mix. Again, the idea is to, number one, ensure that the tenants have the optimal comfort, be it visual and temperature wise. And two, once that is achieved, the energy savings will come. So a lot of times, why doesn't this very simple integration, let's say it's not simple, but why this like no-brainer integration, it should happen most of the time, why does it not happen? It is a difficult conversation to even start. When you're looking at construction documents, your HVAC systems are going to lie in your Division 23 section. Your electrical lighting systems will be on Division 26, and then integration automation is on Division 25. So very different sections. Very then important that a lot of these projects should hire an integration professional to bridge these conversations. Or hey, why not encourage the lighting professionals that are getting all of this non-energy benefit technology implemented into the systems? Let's start that conversation and ensure it happens. Additional, and we're going to go through a few examples and use cases as to how these non-energy benefits can impact a space. These days, NLC systems can report their own energy use, be it to utility programs, to facility managers and owners, can help support that efficiency incentive without the need to install, monitor, or remove, expensive data loggers, meters. So what's happening is a lot of these systems are now tracking live energy use from various strategies of your systems. The way the monitoring can be, the savings can be either calculated or measured. Since a lot of lighting systems can do these math calculations where like, hey, if you have, if your fixtures are using this much wattage and through occupancy, high and trim and other strategies, you're going to be saving this much time or wattage. So calculate how much savings you'll be able to realize. Great to have, slightly better to implement, but not as accurate as other network lighting control systems that can measure the actual current drawn. I've seen a lot of the load controllers, both in the luminaire level lighting control or just your general load controls, have an additional wire that can actually measure how much energy is being used or not used in a specific zone, and I'll have a bit more of an accurate count as to how to arrive at your energy savings. And hey, as some of these systems are getting more savvy and communicating directly to utility, it definitely helps when it comes to utility program incentives. Also, it is great for these systems to communicate with facility professionals via diagnostics and alerts. It is great to have the ability to not have to find a needle in a haystack. What I mean by that, in the past, sometimes the tenants would report to the building technicians, hey, light so and so in this room stopped working, or oh, the light's not great in the gym, and there could be hundreds of fixtures in a gym, uh, or hey, I know a light stopped working in a specific room. You would have to have a facility tech dive deep in the in the haystack to find what's not working. And systems these days are very hip to even just sending an email, hey, specific light X with ballast Y or zone J like has an issue, it's not communicating, not responding. Same with like sensors that have low batteries. So the more the system can communicate and make life easier on its maintenance, will help extend its life and operations. Um, and then when it comes to just energy saving aggregation, a lot of the systems as well, they're not just looking at one simple building. Many systems are able to scale through an entire campus. Consider a university that has multiple buildings with network lighting control systems, and they are able to aggregate all the savings data into one dashboard across the entire campus. Uh, Talk a little bit about the non-energy benefits of indoor positioning and wayfindings through an example. Uh, Target some years ago started working with Acuity brands and their smart platform Atrius to use both indoor positioning, which is hey, the ability to know where someone is because the sensors in your LLC systems will know where you are if you have an identifying device like your cell phone. And wayfinding, it's the ability to tell you, hey, this is a way you can get to a destination. So what Target did, if you have the Target app, you can do one of two things. Let's say you have a shopping list of 10 items, and through the LLC system and the Target app working together, the store would know where you were, the store would know where the items that you want are. So like a GPS in a car, it could tell you the easiest way to get to your 10 items. Like, oh, you're looking for fruits and juice and whatever the case may be. Here's an efficient way of picking up all those items and keeping it moving on your way. Very efficient. The other thing it would be doing is, let's say you didn't really have any items that you were specifically looking for, uh, but let's say you're walking near the fruit aisle, because of the LLC system know where you're standing, then the app would prop a message saying, hey, here are all the savings that we have on fruit. Uh, depending on your personal level of comfort of like, hey, Big Brother is watching, or oh, this is very efficient. It can be seen as a very solid way to increase, again, foot traffic in a store. It could be a very solid way of providing a seamless shopping experience to your customers. So again, building owners that want to drive revenue may be uh, very interested in features such as this. Tenants obviously may have a more efficient trip or a more cost-effective trip to the store. And again, implementers will be able to offer a solution very sophisticated that can help bottom lines of a store rather than just a better illumination. When we're looking at space utilization, is hey, how efficient is the space layout for office building, hospital, school, warehouse? Uh, for example, let's focus on an office. Like, what is the cost of empty space? Let's say you have your conference rooms, your meeting rooms. What happens if they're empty most of the time? Does that mean that people are not working together to get new solutions in an office? Is there an opportunity for these rooms to be changed into something better? Uh, it is very costly to have it's very costly to analyze the use of your space by working with an architect firm or a company that does solely space analysis. But now through network lighting controls, sensors, and motion sensors, you'll be able to know a great many information, such as depending on the time of day, how many, even you can count how many individual number of people were at different spaces for a certain amount of time. You can have, you see at the bottom right, you'll see a heat map as to how people flow through the space. You can learn that, hey, the spaces that are more commonly used will likely be the bathrooms, but how about the other offices, the conference rooms? And you see even here, conference rooms are rather empty right here. Sure, restrooms are extremely heavily used. But knowing how your space is used, how the people work in your space will allow you to make better decisions as a building owner as to how to better lay out your space and make it more efficient and work for your tenants. Moving on. We spoke a little bit about demand response, and in the near past, utilities would have to call buildings when they were, hey, let's say it's the a hot day in summer, and a lot of buildings in the utility service territory are cranking up the AC. Utility is nearing that peak low and they want to avoid brownouts, blackouts. So they'll be calling their various commercial customers, which are their largest energy draws, and saying, hey, I need to reduce the load being used in your building. And traditionally, that just means lowering the HVAC and lighting loads. And without any smart system, technicians would have to run up and down the building, what we call sneaker net, and start turning off various heating and lighting zones. With a smart system, smart network lighting control system, a very, very seamless application. Utility can send the signal via protocol, be it, as simple as utility system sending an email, but no, it's more so be it whatever protocol. And one of the hip ones these days is OpenADR, sends a message to these lighting systems, and a few different things can happen, a few different ways these can be implemented. Let's say on the right hand side, it's a bit more analog. You can tell a load controller, a group of load controllers just to like dim or turn off. You can have your system like programmed to like, hey, whenever we receive a demand response signal, we're going to dim 34% across the board. Great. Or you can also go in zone by zone and say, hey, when we hear a demand response signal, I want this zone to go to 50%, this zone to go to 70. These rooms you can completely turn off. So you can do it in very many ways depending on your needs for your building and your facility. So again, great flexibility that network lighting controls can provide for a space. Oh, sorry, I think I just repeated that. Another great non-energy benefit that is getting more and more popular these days is asset tracking. The ability to understand where important assets are and how they're used. And great example, I had a case study from the VA, the Pittsburgh Healthcare VA hospital, where their inventory manager was calling out, hey, we are losing 25% of our wheelchairs every year. They're just gone. And between the wheelchairs that we lose, and we even counted the amount of time our staff, nurses, volunteers were spending on looking for wheelchairs, we calculated that we were losing $1 million a year on, again, wages and fleet being lost. Every year we're spending about $70,000 additionally on buying about 200 new wheelchairs. So Pittsburgh VA, they implemented a system by Osram called Einstone. Obviously, well, it's a luminaire level lighting control system that can read RFID tags on wheelchairs, and I had a pretty nifty dashboard that facility professionals could use to understand like a wheelchair left the hospital. That's probably because someone's getting picked up or whatever the case may be. We have a timer set as to when this asset is supposed to be returned, and if not, we need to go look for it. And obviously, the different staff members of the hospital that had to find wheelchairs for patients rather than having to run up and down floors hoping to find a wheelchair. They could use the Wayfinding application to understand, hey, what's the nearest wheelchair to me and how can I get to it? So again, solving these problems that had a real dollar sign cost to them by implementing a lighting system that not only provides you, your better visual environment, less glare, better task lighting, but also can help you save money on staff time finding wheelchairs. And again, there's many other use cases for asset tracking, but I think the example drives it home. Pretty nifty non-energy benefit, ideally for introverts, call it room scheduling. That's the ability for tying, let's say, corporate office, tying your email calendar applications to the lighting system. Let's say you're looking to schedule a room for a meeting. The lighting system can tell in real time your calendar application if a room is available, occupied, and sure, like let's say you can have rooms that were supposed to have a meeting, but if you look at your sensor say like, hey, yeah, sure, this room was supposed to be booked, but no one is there, so the room is likely vacant and can be used for a meeting. So great many ways that these systems can communicate for actual office applications. And let's say that you book a room and just by virtue of that, the illumination, let's say the light levels will be set to the preference of whoever booked that room. The temperature will ensure that the space is comfortable. And let's even say that, hey, like there's a meeting, another meeting for a different group in 5 minutes after yours. Let's say like a minute until the time is done. The lights can slightly like dim up and down to let the people in the space know, hey, someone's going to be waiting for you in about a minute. Start closing up. Very powerful to also pair this room scheduling with wayfinding. Let's say that you're not 100% just, it's a large building, could be a new employee is not sure where room 5F is, and sure, they know they have a meeting there, the room has been scheduled, then they can use their phone application to help them get to that room like a GPS indoors. An example of Signify's Interact office system that has a wayfinding applications on the top left over there. So very solid amount of value being driven by network lighting control systems that is not just about controlling the lighting in the space, just solving real world problems. Very interesting emerging application, and it's been emerging for a little while now, but that's the ability of transmitting data through visible light. When we think about Wi-Fi, hey, we transmit data through radio frequency, and this feature called Li-Fi, light fidelity, transmit data and high-speed data, mind you, through visible light or ultraviolet or infrared. And that's basically connecting to the internet by visual light. Some of the early adopters of this emerging technology has been the military, interestingly enough, because their sites have to be extremely secure. They cannot be prone to hacking in the past. A lot of their facilities didn't even have the ability to connect to the internet. But with Li-Fi, it is impossible to hack that data connection unless you are directly in the visible light spectrum. So that's a great way to connect a lot of their facilities, secure facilities, online. Another manufacturer that has a solid application for this, Signify, has their true Li-Fi systems where, consider your typical coffee shop, rather than asking the coffee shop cashier, owner, barista, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? You would be asking, hey, can I get the Li-Fi dongle? Connect that dongle to your computer, and it'll just by being under the visible light in the space, you'll be able to connect to the internet. Great way to control who is on your network and who is not. Take a second, breathe. I'm probably rambling, so I get very excited about these non-energy benefits. We'll check to see if there are any questions. Gene, I see your comment on designing and specifying a space. We will reach out. Thank you. All right, moving on to continuing the message. Starting with tunable white lighting. And again, a lot of these topics can be a class unto itself. But right now, we'll look to have a high level conversation and for the awareness and how to frame that conversation with different stakeholders. Tunable white lighting. Everyone should be aware the discussions going on with circadian entrainment, color temperature, how they affect your circadian rhythm of sleeping and waking. And while research is still ongoing, using a tunable system at least prepares any possible future eventuality that research actually comes out and say, hey, controlling the light spectrum and your color temperature is actually beneficial to your health. Again, the research is still ongoing, but it's very likely going to look that there is a solid amount of benefits for implementing tunable white lighting. Even in, I forget if it's 2021 or 2020, there was a research study done in a warehouse with various night shift workers, just the ability for them having tunable white lighting and being, white and cool when they're looking to be more energized and concentrated, and warmer, darker yellow tones when they can be a bit more relaxed and ready to leave, did affect positively a good amount of their performance, their quality of life. So again, a good amount of the conversation can be, you want to have the infrastructure ready for the buildings of tomorrow. So if you're implementing luminaire low lighting control technology or network lighting control technology that has tunable white possibilities and applications, let's say you don't really quote unquote flip the switch on now, but at a very near future, that's going to be a killer app for lighting, in our opinion, at a lighting design lab. And sure, first, do no harm. When it comes to light and health and not all that conversation, we're not looking to manipulate the biological process. We're in lighting, we're not doctors. We're looking to have that evidence-based research tell us, yeah, tunable white lighting will be great for your health, and the way that we want to implement it correctly is as such. So when it comes to implementers, hey, not looking to be medical experts, you're looking to just create a comfortable environment. And when research tells you this is the way we're supposed to implement these systems, that's what we follow it. But having the infrastructure ready will go a long way. I wanted to call out a study that the Department of Energy and PNNL, the Pacific Northwest National Labs, did in 2018-19 in a couple of classrooms in a school where they implemented a tunable white system, and they asked both teachers and students, hey, how are you doing? How's your energy? How are you feeling? You'll see the layout on the top right there where the wall station was put with like, hey, like the different zones of lighting and what color temperature they were going to be at. Through that study, some of their findings were pretty solid. First and foremost, dimming was actually the primary benefit rather than the color tunability. To change from one task to another. Hey, we're coming in from recess, or we're going to lunch, or we're going to be reading, or we're going to have a quiz. Dimming was seen as a primary benefit, but the color tunability was also seen as a good benefit, was just secondary. Going from fluorescent to LED and using the dimming levels, there were a solid amount of energy savings in the space as well. You see in the bottom right there, they realized 71% annual savings between LED conversion and the network lighting control implementation. And again, just changing the light levels, great effective cues to switch between activities. And improve the working conditions for the teachers, and again, improve the learning environment for the students. So again, yeah, both dimming and color tunability, great use cases for schools. Network lighting controls, we're seeing a solid emerging markets when it comes to horticultural lighting and indoor horticulture. And obviously in states where it's legal, you're seeing the boom on these facilities for the cannabis industry. So, network, right? And a lot of these plants we're considering your tenants, your plants, be it, tomatoes that you're growing, your lettuce, whatever you're growing. And each of these quote unquote tenants will have a specific need when it comes to their spectral power distribution needs. Hey, do we need more blue light, more green light, more red? Do we need far red for a certain amount of plants? And being able to automate the different dosage of different spectral distribution light levels that these plants will need would be key in these facilities. Having to do it manually or through a programmed box every whatever the timing needs for each spectrum can get very hectic. Doing this very automatically in a scheduled way, or being all controlled from a dashboard will be great. And also there's a solid opportunity for implementers where if people that are looking at these facilities, the facility owners and managers are not 100% sure how to give the correct dosage for their crop, they're going to look to what they call Dr. YouTube. And these are people on the internet that are not necessarily experts. They're just hobbyists or people that have spent a good amount of time doing growing whatever plants they're growing. But again, they're not professional research-based information providers. And that's where implementers can see an actual opportunity to have that subject matter expertise, share the great dosage and information out there, and make sure that all is met. One of the last examples on non-energy benefits I'm going to go into here, put the wow factor in hospitality. A couple of manufacturers are working on what they call the smart lighting guest room, where they can integrate what they call the property management system, the PMS, and that's like, hey, you can do things such as if the room just got bought for a guest for the first time and it has not been occupied yet, the first time they open the door, we detect that occupancy. We want to give them their grand welcome scene. Let's slowly move the drapes. Let's have the lights dim to a warm, comfortable level. Temperature has to be comfortable, even play some music. So it's a good amount of integration possibilities there. And in the hospitality industry, there's this thing called the guest presence detection algorithm that it just goes beyond energy sensors. It factors in, button pushes, sound sometimes, sure, the motion sensors. And depending on if the guest is detected to be in the room or not, the lighting and HVAC will behave, number one, for comfort, and number two, for ensuring that energy is saved in an efficient way. And also, obviously, like guest presence detection works well even if the occupant of the room is sleeping. The GPD algorithm will know if they have not left the room yet, they're sleeping, so they'll be ensuring comfort first, efficiency and savings later. There's also many potential integrations, such as what they call the do not disturb or makeup room. The lighting system can help have wall stations affect the corridor signage to tell if the room should be cleaned or not at all. You can integrate with what they call CELS, a central electronic locking system. Sure, like if the guest of that room is using their key card, the lighting and HVAC may do something different than if it's the cleaning staff of the facility coming in with their key card, or the owner or a security person, and lighting and HVAC may do different things depending on who is coming in the room. And also for facility managers and building owners, it is great to see the savings and occupancy and other many information for the entire hospitality facility in one dashboard. Last couple of slides here. When it comes to smart cities, hey, the road starts, in my opinion, with exterior lighting. There's power there, and there are going to be smart sensors there, and they're going to be doing a great many things that help the city run. Interesting question when it comes to smart cities. Who are the owners? Would it be the citizens? Would it be city planners? Would it be the people implementing the system? So that's an interesting question, and it's still an ongoing conversation. There's a great many types of owner stakeholders when it comes to smart cities. But again, through the infrastructure of exterior lighting and the sensors that they can carry, hey, you can have great information and act on the information when, be it for parking management, provide internet connections, gunshot sensors, seismic sensors, air pollution sensors, just even applications, smart city applications that can help determine how long it could take you to get home in public transportation after a sporting event. Like a good amount of features being implemented and all in the backbone of exterior lighting. So to start wrapping up the non-energy benefit conversation, looking to discuss interesting trend that we're observing here. As we're getting smarter, we're aggregating more and more data into fewer dashboards. We're seeing the non-energy benefits in connected lighting. That's again the intersection of LED and network lighting controls being IoT, the Internet of Things, where in these spaces we're going to have all of those features. Hey, the BMS integrations and HVAC integrations, Li-Fi, asset tracking, space utilization, and that is just one one component of the smart building ecosystem. That could be just, hey, the smart lighting component of the smart building ecosystem. But what we're going to be seeing in the very near future is going to be that smart building, and we're going to start talking about the Internet of Buildings, how each building in a city space or in the realm of an energy provider or utility or operator will be a point of communication itself in this great infrastructure. And as cities become smarter, we're going to connect these smart buildings, and they're going to be in this connected space with smart electric vehicle chargers, distributed energy resources like microgrids, separate electricity storage space, smarter communities. There are protocols that are looking to connect all this. The one that I have in the example is the OpenADR standard, and there's this whole thing called the OpenADR Alliance that is connecting all these smart devices, buildings, charging stations, whatever the case may be, and lighting manufacturers are getting hip to the conversation, and you'll start seeing all these white papers as to like, hey, how all these network lighting control system manufacturers are looking to work with all these standards and protocols and interfaces. So look for the trends, and we'll be seeing a good amount of communication in the future, and having the infrastructure now, implementing these LLC systems now will ensure the future proof of buildings to come. Last slide I have on NEBs, looking at what I like to call the smart race. A lot of these manufacturers are looking at how many features they understand that the clients are asking for, the clients need, and the trend here is like a lot of these manufacturers are going to have a lot of the shared features and a few unique ones that are going to be how they stick out in the market. But as time goes on, if there is solid value in the features and technology emerging trends, we'll see that most of these quote unquote unique features will become shared in the very near future. Throw out a lot of information here. Let's see if there's any questions before we go on these last 20 minutes that we have together. I'm not seeing additional comments, but I will be moving on. All right, wanted to, as we mentioned in the past, wanted to discuss a little bit, hey, what are existing resources? What are the benefits of plugging into utilities? How can we ensure that we leverage our tools and people correctly to promote the good message of NLC? The teamwork makes the dream work. So let's start by, hey, why do utilities care about connected lighting and helping these projects come about? Well, to start, sure, utilities enjoy the fact that energy efficiency, they see it as a resource. The more that their customer saves is the less energy that they have to generate for each customer. So the utility also realizes those savings, and they can use that energy generated for other purposes. Utilities also want to be very relevant to the conversation. They want to ensure that buildings or residential, industrial, commercial spaces are operating in an efficient manner and ideally communicating with them on their smart building ecosystem uh, to ensure that, hey, like efficiencies abound, and that if utilities need customers to change their load consumption, that it's an easy way, and they want to help the buildings get there. So happy to provide that kind of a technical support relationship through some projects. So definitely value engaging with the utilities, and they know that as our systems, residential, commercial, industrial systems get smarter, they are going to be, again, those gateways to connected features, and utilities want to communicate with their with the facilities that they power for a great amount of, again, efficiencies to be made in the future. Some of the benefits of plugging into your utilities, sure, utilities want to invest in innovation and emerging trends for energy savings and monitoring and controlling. Uh, there's a good amount of free resources that utilities can provide, be it, hey, like work with this professional, they'll help you do a lighting audit, and here's all these learning guides, tools, resources you can learn from about implementing various different types of systems. Utility inspectors and energy managers are very hip to a lot of different projects that they have worked on. They have all of this like encyclopedic knowledge that they could share on projects. And sure, utility programming such as Lighting Design Lab, our outfit doing education, awareness, tools, resources, demonstrations. Many utilities across the United States have programs similar to ours, although not as awesome. So it is always beneficial to have in your organization someone that could be that utility whisperer or utility evangelist that is knowing. If you don't know, this is Milan, the dog whisperer. That's my take at the utility whisperer. Someone that's plugged in and understanding what's the latest and greatest on the programs, what are the latest and greatest on tools, resources, people that can help you with projects. And utilities are even getting hip to the conversation to really promote network lighting controls and luminaire level lighting controls. They're right sizing incentives these days. They're providing what they call deemed incentives. So like not, hey, after performance, we realize savings, we'll give you a dollar amount. And no, even before anything is measured, utilities are providing fixed incentives for what they believe are going to be the savings that control systems provide. You'll see those percentage savings in terms of like NLC and LLC applications, and also providing not only like those measured fixed savings, but a good amount of utilities in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle City Lighting included, are providing incentives per fixture at a tune of $50 to $150 a fixture for implementing luminaire level lighting controls. So again, there's money on the table for these types of projects that to help some of those building owners that may have that hesitancy of the upfront cost. Hey, there are a good amount of programs that utilities can help to alleviate. And not just utilities, even just here in the Puget Sound region or Pacific Northwest, there are a great many organizations that can help on lighting projects, including the University of Washington's Integrated Design Lab, ourselves, Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, NEEC, BPA. Again, you take the handout, want to look at what these organizations do and how they can help promote these projects, the better. Also wanted to promote another program from the Department of Energy and the Pacific Northwest National Lab, the Integrated Lighting Campaign. A solid effort that began a couple of years ago, where both you see examples of both what they call participants or facilities that have implemented like connected lighting projects that are integrated, be it HVAC or other building systems or the BMS, and they're sharing their success stories, how they got to that connected environment. You can learn from it if you're looking to do, building owners looking to do their own project. They can look at who did what, learn from it, and not have to reinvent the wheel. There's also solid supporters such as Lighting Design Lab. We at City Light are supporters of the integrated lighting campaign, and those are organizations that provide that type of education, awareness, programming to promote these types of projects. And if I'm not mistaken, they are taking in submissions through tomorrow, through the end of this week, as to, hey, if you know of any building that has had a solid project implemented with integrated lighting, they'll look to recognize these types of projects in their upcoming conference. So if you have a surefire project of a building that has such a integration from lighting in another building system, hey, check out the site and see if you want to submit. Leverage the Lighting Design Lab. We do project-specific consults, and in the past, we also did mock-ups where we built spaces and installed in our demonstration facility. Very sadly, due to the pandemic, we've lost our space, but we continue doing consults. If you have lighting questions and want to work with designers, happy to work with you. Before moving on to what I believe is our last section, to see if there's any types of questions. I see a thank you. Very nice. More so some nice comments. Happy Easter. Yes. All right. We'll keep it going. All right. How do we simplify the message to grab stakeholders' attention? Our last section here. More so tying in with the integrated lighting campaign, they did a presentation in Better Buildings, and I like this poll. They asked the question, hey, what are the two biggest barriers for implementing NLC in building systems? And very happy to see that, hey, lack of knowledge and experience was a higher response than cost and upfront cost. That's usually the largest deterrent, but that was an indication like, hey, like, we still need to shout out the good word from the mountaintops of network lighting control systems, luminaire lighting control systems, their benefits, their saving potentials. So that's great to know. But in terms of simplifying that message, a lighting audit is a great first impression. It's a shameless plug. We had our audit and retrofits class last week, so check out the recording. It's a deep dive as to how to make retrofit projects happen, and we do speak a good amount on lighting audits. But what we do is, and I've done a good amount of these myself, you run through an entire facility to count, take pictures of every single lamp and luminaire and fixture in the space and the controls to get you that very solid benchmarks. Like, hey, here's the equipment that you have in your space. You have all these fluorescents, all these metal halides. Here is, and just knowing the utility rate for the electricity that you use and the number and the wattage of the fixtures and all that information, you'll know a good amount of benchmark of this is the energy that you are spending from your existing lighting system. And from there, you can look at various types of solutions. Like, hey, if you change the LED, if you add controls, and you can do a solid and a very accurate calculation as to if you go to LEDs with various different products and add in controls, you can get a good idea of what the savings you realize may be from a project. And audits can definitely lead to a full life cycle analysis, because we don't necessarily want to, and I'll explain simple payback in a second, but great way to tell a story from lighting audit to get to a proposal. A good way to simplify the message as well is going to be what we call a sequence of operation. This is going through lighting design, and it's, interestingly enough, a scope gray area where it is difficult to understand who is supposed to make the sequence of operation. Is it supposed to be the lighting designer, the controls manufacturer? Is it supposed to be a combination of different other staff professionals, building architects? What I encourage most people is to ensure that the control designer or lighting designer work together, and they set up this document that pretty much tells for each space type, the conference room, equipment room, private office, open office, what control strategies are they going to have? Are they going to have, and to what detail are they going to have them? At the very beginning in the programming or schematic design, the design development phase of construction, it's great to just have, hey, what room is going to have what feature? when you get a bit more along in your design, it's better to tell different stakeholders, building owners, and great to get the buy-in from different types of stakeholders. Here's what every room type is going to do specifically with the control strategy. What level is your private office high and trim going to be? To what threshold are your conferences daylight sensors going to be? So great way to ensure we can communicate. Here's how the system is going to control the space to the various stakeholders to get their buy-in. Solid way for facility operators to leverage a lighting control system. Before, there was a lot of button pushing, dip switch setting. Now we're seeing a lot more mobile devices programming applications. So the simpler this can be for facility managers, building operators, the people that have to leverage the system to ensure that the building operates correctly, the better. And great for tenants. Wall stations, they sure, like there is a whole couple of spectrums from wall stations in the way that tenants can interact with them. You know, how simple or complex a wall station looks doesn't necessarily need to affect how limited or how capable a wall station functions can be. We did a whole research on wall station in 2020 in the lighting design lab, where we looked at surveying various types of people, whether they knew about the lighting industry or not, on different, hey, like, how would you prefer the simplicity of a wall station be, as well as how capable, how many bells and whistles each wall station can have. And I can report that people were happiest with wall stations that had specific text, not like scene one, scene two, scene three, but it had, like, you know, presentation, reading, that had dedicated raise and lower buttons on that wall station, and that was scene based, not necessarily controlling each zone in a multi-zone space. So that was nice to understand, hey, how to better simplify the message for tenants when it comes to how to interact with their building illumination. Yeah, also mentioned a little bit ago the configuration tools for facility professionals, and the better way to have these driven and developed by manufacturers should have an ordinal process. And that means, like, hey, start at discovering devices in the space and pairing them, or whatever that order of operations is seamless for the network lighting control system. There should be visual confirmation of what settings have been implemented in the space, be it on the space itself, lights flashing, or mimicking what the lights will do at a specific time clock schedule, and should have integral help videos, GIFs, images to help people understand how they should do certain functions. Some manufacturers still, applications are still pretty confusing, have a good amount of engineering language that is not as easy to understand. There's no specific flow. People have to kind of figure out their way how to program this space. And just note, not every network lighting control system uses an application. There are some, like the Cree SmartCast, that uses the remote, and that has its own set of pros and cons, in the sense that they have a great button to, hey, if you press this button, it'll program the entire space 75% or 85% of the way that you may want it in the final setting. And you just have to tweak a few of the details. But you may not be able to dashboard a good amount of the information from the remote. So yeah, pros and cons as to how manufacturers approach the configuration tools. And facility managers, again, prefer ordinal process with visual confirmation of settings, and that there are integral help features. When it comes to implementers, very important to leverage what we call your partner's procedural efficiency. Implementers work good amount with both manufacturers and manufacturers representative in that specific territory. Implementers know that working with the manufacturers, they're going to leverage their global industry knowledge, as the manufacturers are going to have that larger scale view of the industry, the emerging technologies, what's going on, and leverage that technical advisory. Then they'll work really well with the territory representatives, because these Territory reps will have that regional operational knowledge. They know who the main trade allies in the space are, who are solid energy efficiency resources, who can do great education programming, who can do mock-ups, and can help that local coordination for project implementation. Always know that different manufacturers will have different types of tools to even spec, develop projects, design them, lay them out. So really understanding, be it if you're an implementer, you're an owner, which manufacturer and rep and implementer combo has what types of tools to help make this project run smoother, develop faster, specify and design easiest, and ultimately obviously deliver a better product with all the quality lighting and non-energy benefits you need. Slight conversation when it comes to value engineering. It is a misnomer. It's not really value. It is not really engineering. Great way to end our conversation here slightly. When we looked at value engineering the traditional way, most building contractors upsells. Like, hey, no, we want to give you the better HVAC compressor. We'd rather prefer that you are very much covered. Electrical contractors will be one of the very few contractors to downsell or value engineer. It's like, hey, for a comparable set of features and operations, we can sell this less costly product and get you there. But what that does is at the last minute, very little time to analyze the repercussions. Sure, you can reduce upfront costs, but you are hurting the life of your system, the life expectancy, the functions down the road. You won't have the correct infrastructure to future-proof for emerging technology that will come on. True value engineering should add to the upfront costs, and the purpose of that is to reduce the life cycle cost. Think longevity. Buildings aren't going anywhere. Don't settle for lower quality products with less features, capabilities, future-proof infrastructure if you're looking to ensure that the building survives the test of time. Through this, any questions before we wrap here? I appreciate you guys working with us here. I saw a couple of awesome, really nice comments, so I appreciate those. If there are any questions, it'd be great to go through them here. All right, and if not, I'll skip us ahead to, seem to have a bit of an issue here. Oh no, sorry, lost the presentation, everybody, but I'm about to get it back. There we go. Katie, still with us? You mind taking us home over here?
Sure. All right. Thank you, everyone. We are ending, it looks like, right on time. And, oh, thank you, Armando. He's got our slide updated with our next offerings. And these are just our next, well, we'll call them 4. It's 3. One's a 2-day. So if you do register for that, make sure you register for both days if you want the full webinar. Sean Dara's very popular, very well received network lighting controls fundamentals. So if you haven't taken that, recommend it. Or if you've got colleagues that need to brush up or be introduced to network lighting controls, that's a great one to start with. And there are actually several more coming. I think by the next week, we'll have them up all the way through June. So lightingdesignlab.com is our website to find those on. And there's Armando's details if you want to get in touch with him after class. And again, our lightingdesignlab.seattle.gov email, and a sort of a snippet of our website where our presentation and recording will be posted. It's in the education section, but the resource guide that Armando referenced at the very beginning is found in the resources section. And coincidentally, when our newsletter goes out today, it will have a link to that resource. All right, next slide might be it. That is it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your week, and maybe we will see you back here next week. Remember to take
Thank you all.
the, yeah, the survey at the end when we exit.